Before the storm, there was a dinner table. Laughter used to echo in that room. Dad's bad jokes, Lily's giggles, the clatter of forks. It was a normal kind of happiness. Unremarkable maybe, but ours. Then Janet, Mom's enlightened friend, slithered into our lives, whispering promises of wealth and a better future into Mom's impressionable ear. That evening, the laughter died. I can still see the way Mom reached for the mashed potatoes, a casual gesture that masked the seismic shift about to rip through our family. "I'm quitting my job at the library," she announced. Just like that. Dad's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Quit?" "Karen, what the hell are you talking about?" Her eyes gleamed, a strange, unsettling excitement I'd never seen before. "I met some people at the seminar. They invest, stock trading, real estate, all sorts of things. It's real money, Tom, not just pennies. You're talking about gambling with our savings, Karen." Dad snapped, his voice sharp with worry. "That seminar is messing with your head. It's not gambling, Tom. It's about taking risks to move forward." "You're just too scared to see it," she fired back, her voice rising. That was the beginning, the first crack in the foundation. Every dinner after that became a battlefield, Dad desperately trying to hold on to reality, Mom seduced by the siren song of riches. I felt like I was watching strangers argue, people who used to hold hands across the table, now spitting venom. I remember one afternoon, coming home from school to find Mom surrounded by papers, her laptop glowing like a beacon in the dim kitchen. "Hey Mom, what's all this?" I asked, dropping my backpack with a thud. "It's my future, Ella," she said, not even looking up. "I'm done living paycheck to paycheck. It's time we live like the rich. I've invested some money in a promising stock, and tomorrow I'm meeting with a group about a real estate venture. It's all going to change for us, you'll see." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe that this wasn't some crazy pipe dream, that she actually knew what she was doing. But all I felt was a cold dread, like we were on a runaway train with no brakes. "What if it doesn't work out, Mom? What happens then?" She finally looked up, her gaze intense, almost manic. "It will work out. I'm making sure of it." The days blurred into weeks, each one more suffocating than the last. Dad would pace the living room at night, his voice a low rumble of frustration and fear. I'd hear him pleading with her, begging her to stop. "You're throwing away everything we've worked for, Karen. These schemes are nothing but money pits. You're too chicken to seize a real opportunity, Tom. I'm trying to build something bigger here, and I don't need your negativity," she'd scream back. Lily, bless her heart, tried to shut it all out. She'd sit at the dining table, doodling in her notebook, her small shoulders hunched, her face a mask of forced indifference. It broke my heart to see her like that, trying to disappear. I wanted to protect her, but I was just a kid myself, barely able to keep my own head above water. One Thursday night, the tension in the kitchen was so thick you could choke on it. Dad had just discovered that Mom had withdrawn a huge chunk of money from their joint savings account. I was trying to focus on my homework, but the rising voices were a physical assault. "Karen, where's the money from our savings?" "It's nearly half gone," Dad roared, slamming some papers on the table. Mom, who was chopping vegetables with a furious energy, didn't even flinch. "I invested it, Tom. It's going into a fund that promises triple the return. We talked about this." "No, you talked, and I said no. When will you stop this madness?" Dad was red in the face, his hands clenched into fists. "It's not madness, it's opportunity. You'd know if you weren't so stubbornly glued to your penny-pinching ways." Mom shot back, her voice icy. I glanced at Lily, who was huddled in her chair, her drawing abandoned. Her eyes were wide with a fear I knew all too well. "Your opportunities are bleeding us dry, Karen. We can't even pay this month's bills on time because of your investments." Dad's voice cracked with frustration. "We'll make up for it tenfold when the returns come in. Just wait and see." "Stop being such a pessimist," she retorted, slamming the knife down on the counter. Days bled into each other, the arguments escalating, each leaving a deeper, more painful scar. I started dreading coming home after school. I'd linger at the library, wander the streets, anything to avoid the constant, suffocating tension. It felt like living on a ticking time bomb, waiting for it to explode. I was 2 years away from graduation, my escape hatch, when the bomb finally detonated. It was a Saturday morning, starting like any other. Dad was checking the mail. Mom was sipping her coffee, seemingly oblivious. Then he found the bank statements. The air turned electric. "What the hell is this, Karen?" His voice was low, dangerous. Mom's eyes flickered, a flicker of guilt betraying her carefully constructed facade. "Tom, I was going to tell you." "Tell me what?" "That you've gambled away Ella's college fund? Is that your big plan for financial freedom?" He threw the bank statement down, pointing to the glaring zero balance. "You've not just gambled with our money, Karen. You've gambled with our daughter's future." I froze in the entryway, Lily clutching my hand, both of us wide-eyed. This was worse than any argument before. This was about my life, my future, my college, my escape. "This is it, Karen," Dad said, his voice cold, resigned. "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." He turned to me, his eyes filled with a sorrow that twisted my gut. "I'm sorry, Ella." I tried. Within weeks, Dad was gone. He moved out, remarried ridiculously fast, and started over in another city. He called at first, his voice always strained, always apologizing. But Mom, ever the wounded warrior, blocked his number, painting him as the traitor, the deserter. "Your father left us, girls," she told us one evening, her tone bitter as she deleted his contact from my phone. "He doesn't care. He's not even paying alimony. With Dad gone and college now a distant, mocking dream, it was down to me. I had to keep our ship from sinking, even though I was drowning myself. I picked up a job at the local diner, Benny's. The coffee was bitter, the customers were grumpy, but the paycheck was steady. Every cent I earned went straight to Mom, supposedly to help dig us out of the hole. Her gambling had buried us in. But despite handing over my pay, the bills kept piling up, and Mom was hardly ever home, always chasing her next big score. One particularly long day, after a grueling double shift, I came home past midnight. The house was dark. Lily was asleep on the sofa, surrounded by textbooks. I gently woke her up to get her to bed, feeling a knot of anger and sorrow tighten in my chest. She deserved so much more than this. The next morning, still aching from exhaustion, I found Mom at the kitchen table, scribbling furiously in a notebook filled with numbers and incomprehensible schemes, none of which ever seemed to pan out. "Mom, what's for dinner tonight?" I asked, hoping against hope that she'd actually taken care of something for once. "I'm pulling another double, and I won't have time to cook." She didn't look up, just kept scribbling. "Don't eat here. Eat at work. And you should get Lily a job there, too. We could use the extra money." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Are you serious?" "She's only 14, Mom. My job is to make sure she doesn't have to work, that she gets to be a kid as long as she can." Mom shrugged, still not looking at me. "Needs must, Ella. We're drowning here." That evening, after my shift, I spotted Mom outside a flashy new casino downtown. She was arguing with a bouncer, her face flushed and angry as he escorted her away from the entrance. "Mom!" I called out, running towards her. "What are you doing here?" She rounded on me, her eyes wild. I was so close, Ella. "I have a system. Downloaded it off the net. It's foolproof." "Mom, it's not foolproof. It's a scam! It's designed to make you lose. The house always wins," I said, trying to inject some sense into her. "Not us," she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, and you know better? Working at the diner is going to save us? At least it's real money, Mom. It's honest work, not this fantasy you're chasing. You're addicted." Mom's face hardened, her eyes blazing. "I'm not addicted. I'm trying to fix our lives." You'll see. Tomorrow, I'll prove it. With that, she stormed off, leaving me standing alone on the street, feeling hollowed out and defeated. I walked home slowly, each step heavier than the last. I had to accept it. Mom wasn't going to change. It was up to me to keep Lily safe and try to scrape together some semblance of a future. But as I unlocked our front door, to the sight of overdue bills and final notices stacked on the table, I couldn't help but feel like we were one losing hand away from losing everything. With Lily's birthday looming, I threw myself into even more shifts at the diner. She'd been withdrawn lately, self-conscious about her clothes, feeling like she didn't fit in at school. I wanted to buy her something special, something beautiful that would make her feel confident and happy on her day. I had a little box, a plain old shoe box, where I stashed away every extra dollar I could spare. I hid it well, under my bed, buried beneath winter clothes and old notebooks. It was supposed to be a surprise, a good surprise, not like the constant stream of bad surprises. Mom kept springing on us. 2 days before Lily's birthday, while I was at work, I got a frantic text from her. It just read, "Come home now." It's Mom! My stomach plummeted. I swapped shifts with a coworker, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What had gone wrong this time? I arrived home to a cacophony of shouting. The front door was wide open, and I could hear Mom's voice booming from inside my room. As I stepped inside, the scene before me was chaos. Clothes and papers were strewn everywhere, and there was Mom, holding my shoebox, her face twisted in a rage I'd only seen glimpses of before. "You selfish little rat," Mom screamed as I walked in. "Stealing from your own family, hoarding money like it's all yours." "What?" "No, Mom!" "Let me explain," I stammered, but she cut me off. "Explain? Explain how you hide money while we're drowning in debt? Or you think you're better than me? That you can just do whatever you want? That money was for Lily. For her birthday!" I shouted back, trying desperately to make her understand. But it was like talking to a hurricane. Lily was crying by the doorway, her small frame shaking. "Mom, please!" Ella was doing it for me. "For my birthday." Mom turned on her, eyes blazing. "Oh, so you knew? Great! Both my daughters are conspiring against me. What a great family I have." "It's not like that, Mom. We just wanted—" Lily tried to speak, but Mom wasn't having any of it. "I can't trust either of you." She threw the box down, and the few bills I had managed to save fluttered to the floor like fallen leaves. "Get out! If you're going to steal from me, then you can't stay here." The world seemed to tilt. She was kicking us out. Our own mother. We packed in a daze, tears and silence filling the space between us. We grabbed what we could, clothes, a few books, anything that felt necessary for survival. As we stepped out of the house, I looked back. Mom was drawing the curtains sharply, blocking us from view, her final gesture of rejection, of shutting us out. Lily clutched her small bag tightly, her eyes large and worried in the dim street. "Ella, we should call Dad," she murmured, her voice a mixture of hope and fear. I hesitated. The old bitterness, Mom's harsh words about Dad abandoning us, still echoed in my head, but desperation clawed up my chest. The reality was, we had nowhere else to go. "Okay," I said finally, pulling out my battered phone, scrolling through contacts I hadn't touched in years. Finding his number felt like unearthing a relic from another life. My thumb hovered over the call button, a lifeline so desperately needed, yet so heavy with past grievances. I pressed call before I could change my mind. The line clicked, and then his voice, warm and unfamiliar, filled my ear. "Hello? Dad, it's Ella and Lily." "We need help," I blurted out, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Mom," she kicked us out. "We have nowhere to go." There was a pause, heavy and thick with unspoken words. Then, softly, but firmly, he said, "I'm sending you money for train tickets right now. Come to me? We'll figure this out together." True to his word, the money came through minutes later. We booked tickets for the next train to where Dad lived, a city that felt worlds away from our troubles, but in reality was just a few hours by rail. The train ride was quiet, both of us lost in our thoughts. Lily stared out the window, watching the landscape blur past, her face pale and drawn. I kept replaying the scene with Mom, the anger, the betrayal, the utter desolation of being abandoned. Upon arriving, the sight of Dad waiting at the station, his face lined with concern, was almost too much to bear. He looked the same, yet so different, somehow softer, less burdened. Beside him stood a woman, his new wife, Claire. Her smile was warm but cautious. "Dad," I managed, my voice thick with emotion. He pulled us into a tight hug, crushing us against his chest. "Let's get you girls home," he said, leading us towards his car. At the house, a modest but welcoming place, we sat down in the living room. The air was filled with the comforting scent of freshly brewed coffee. Claire excused herself, leaving us to talk. It was then, in the soft light of the living room, that we poured out everything. The fights, the schemes, the eviction. Dad listened, his expression growing darker with each word. When we finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out, taking both my hands in his. "I didn't know," he said quietly, his voice heavy with guilt. "I've been sending money for alimony and for your education every month. I had no idea that you were going through all this." Lily and I exchanged glances, the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. The missing money, the lies. It was too much to take in all at once. "I'm sorry," Dad continued, his eyes moist. "I should have seen through it. I should have been there." "It's not your fault, Dad," I said, feeling some of the weight lift slightly with each word spoken. "We're here now. That's what matters." Dad nodded, squeezing my hands. "You're right. And I'll make it right. Ella, we'll get you enrolled in college. And Lily, there's a great school just a few blocks from here. You'll like it. I promise." The relief was palpable, both of us letting out breaths we hadn't realized we'd been holding. Lily leaned forward, wrapping her arms around Dad in a fierce hug. I joined in, and for a moment, the world didn't seem so cold and harsh. The next morning, gathered around the breakfast table in Dad's kitchen, the sunlight streamed in, warm and hopeful. Claire, who I learned was a lawyer, brewed coffee while chatting about the local school system, her voice smooth and reassuring. "So, you girls will be needing some guidance," Claire began, pouring herself a cup. "Your father's told me everything, and I want you to know I'm here to help. Legally, personally, whatever you need." Lily, munching on her toast, looked up with a hopeful glance. "Does that mean you can stop Mom from?" Her voice trailed off, but the question hung in the air, heavy and fraught with past pains. Claire sat down, her expression serious yet kind. "Yes, Lily. I'm going to make sure she can't pull you back into that mess. We're filing for full custody and ensuring the alimony will no longer fall into unreliable hands." The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Plans for the school year, my college prep. I had started reading again, dusting off old textbooks, filling my head with knowledge that had nothing to do with survival. It felt strange, yet exhilarating. Lily got enrolled in a nearby school, and with Claire's help, started wearing fresh, new clothes that made her beam with confidence. Each morning, she set off with a newfound spring in her step. 3 months after our world turned upside down, while I was deep in a study session, my phone rang. Seeing Mom's number flash on the screen churned my stomach. I took a deep breath, answered, bracing myself for what was coming. "Ella." Mom's voice was shrill, frantic. "They took her from me, Ella. They say I can't be Lily's mother anymore, and they want the alimony back, the money they claim I stole." Her words, once capable of manipulating my emotions, now fell flat, filtered through the clarity of distance and truth. "Mom, you did take that money. Money that was meant for us, for our future. You used us." Mom's voice turned harsh, venomous. "You ungrateful girl. After all I've done for you, You'd let your own mother live on the streets? Mom, that's not fair, and you know it. I'm offering real help. Please take it. My voice was firm, the years of being manipulated hardening me to her guilt trips. Her response was immediate and visceral, laced with rage. You cursed. Then I pouring the through line, every word sharper than the last. I held the phone away from my ear. Her furious tirade a dark reminder of why we drifted so far apart. Finally I spoke, my own voice calm but resolute. I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom. I hope one day you'll get the help you need. With that, I hung up and did something I should have done years ago. I blocked her number. The rest of the day passed in a blur. By the time I met up with Lily at our usual coffee shop, my thoughts were a tangled mess. Lily noticed immediately. Hey, what's wrong? Her concern was evident as she reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. It's Mom, I began, and poured out the entire conversation, her demands, her fury, and my decision to finally cut ties. Lily was quiet for a long moment after I finished, her expression thoughtful. Then she squeezed my hand gently. You did the right thing, Ella. It's hard, but it's right. She's not the person we once loved. She's made her choices. It hurts, Lil. It feels like I'm abandoning her. But I know she's abandoned herself a long time ago. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that save us, Lily said, softly, wisdom beyond her years shining in her eyes. You're choosing not to drown with her. We have our own lives to live. Her words settled something deep within me. I was tired of the cycle of hope and disappointment that came with every call from Mom. It was time to break free, to truly start anew. As we left the coffee shop, the evening air felt fresher, lighter, as if an affirmation of my decision. I knew the road wouldn't always be smooth, but I was ready to face it head on, to build, to dream, and to believe in the best of what was yet to come. As Dad had promised, he supported me through college, covering tuition so I could focus on my studies without the crushing weight of debt. Yet, despite the financial safety net he provided, old habits die hard. I couldn't shake off a need to support myself. I picked up a part-time job at a local cafe, balancing work with my courses. It felt good earning my keep, keeping busy. Claire, Dad's wife, turned out to be more than just a steely lawyer. She became the family anchor we didn't know we were missing. For Lily, she was there at every school event, clapping louder than anyone. For me, she showed up at my college, attending every significant ceremony. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, I couldn't help but express my gratitude. Claire, I don't know how to thank you. You've been there for every parent-teacher meeting, every recital. It means the world to us. Claire smiled, passing me the salad. It's no big deal, Ella. You girls are my family now. I'm just doing what any parent would do. The years rolled on, each semester a new challenge, but also a new opportunity to prove how far I'd come. By my final year, I'd managed to earn a scholarship, covering my tuition fully. Yet, I kept the job at the cafe, not just for the money, but for the sense of normalcy it gave me. One morning, while wiping down tables before opening, my boss, Jerry, a gruff man who'd run the cafe for decades, nodded approvingly at me. You're one of the good ones, Ella. Always pushing, always striving. Proud to have you here. Thanks, Jerry. It's been good for me, you know? Keeps me grounded. Graduation day arrived quicker than I had anticipated. As I stood there, cap and gown fluttering slightly in the spring breeze, I saw them. Dad, Claire, and Lily, their faces alight with pride and joy. Walking across that stage, I wasn't just receiving a diploma. I was stepping into a new chapter, one I had written for myself, against odds that once seemed insurmountable. With a degree in hand and a job lined up, I moved into a small apartment in the city. It was modest, but mine. Claire helped me move in, fussing over the placement of furniture and decorations. This is a fresh start, Ella. Make it yours, she advised as we arranged the last of the books on a new shelf. I plan to, Claire. Really make it something special. Life settled into a new rhythm after college, my days filled with the constant motion of working as a courier. The job was demanding but rewarding, and I appreciated the stability and decent paycheck it offered. The constant movement through the city, the feeling of being a small cog in a much larger machine, kept my mind occupied. One afternoon, as I was finishing up my rounds, my phone rang. The familiar number that flashed on the screen made my heart sink. "Mom!" Taking a deep breath, I answered, bracing myself for what was coming. "Ella?" Mom's voice was urgent, tinged with desperation. "I've lost the house, Ella. The bank took it because I couldn't keep up with the payments." I'm on the streets now," she confessed, her voice breaking. The news hit hard, even though part of me had been waiting for the other shoe to drop for years. "Mom, I'm sorry to hear that. I just need some money to get back on my feet to cover my debts. You can help me, can't you?" Her voice was pleading now, the familiar cadence of manipulation threading through her words. I paused, the weight of our past and her choices pressing down on me. "Mom, I can help you get treatment for your gambling addiction. Not more money to chase your losses. That is what you need." Her response was immediate and visceral, laced with anger. "You ungrateful brat. After all I've done for you, you'd let your own mother live on the streets? Mom, that's not fair, and you know it. I'm offering real help. Please take it." My voice was firm, the years of being manipulated hardening me to her guilt trips. She cursed. Then I'm pouring through the line, every word sharper than the last. I held the phone away from my ear, her furious tirade a dark reminder of why we drifted so far apart. Finally, I spoke, my own voice calm but resolute. "I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom. I hope one day you'll get the help you need." With that, I hung up and did something I should have done years ago. I blocked her number. The rest of the day passed in a blur. By the time I met up with Lily at our usual coffee spot, my thoughts were a tangled mess. Lily noticed immediately. "Hey, what's wrong?" Her concern was evident as she reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. "It's Mom," I began, and poured out the entire conversation, her demands, her fury, and my decision to finally cut ties. Lily was quiet for a long moment after I finished, her expression thoughtful. Then she squeezed my hand gently. "You did the right thing, Ella. It's hard, but it's right. She's not the person we once loved. She's made her choices. It hurts, Lil. It feels like I'm abandoning her, but I know she's abandoned herself a long time ago." "Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that save us," Lily said, softly, wisdom beyond her years shining in her eyes. "You're choosing not to drown with her. We have our own lives to live." Her words settled something deep within me. I was tired of the cycle of hope and disappointment that came with every call from Mom. It was time to break free, to truly start anew. As we left the coffee shop, the evening air felt fresher, lighter, as if an affirmation of my decision. I knew the road wouldn't always be smooth, but I was ready to face it head-on, to build, to dream, and to believe in the best of what was yet to come. I could not go back to who I was before. Before Mom tried to ruin our lives, I could only keep moving forward. The following months were a testament to the strength of my decision. With Mom's influence finally severed, a sense of peace settled over my life, allowing me to focus on building a future I could be proud of. My job at the courier company became a source of unexpected satisfaction. The city streets, once a symbol of my struggle, now felt like a playground of possibilities. I learned every shortcut, every back alley, every hidden gem. I even started to enjoy the frantic pace, the adrenaline rush of navigating the urban chaos. I developed a rhythm, a routine that grounded me. Early mornings spent meticulously planning my routes, the midday hustle of deliveries, and quiet evenings unwinding in my apartment, reading, writing, and dreaming. My tiny apartment became my sanctuary, a haven of order and tranquility in a world that often felt chaotic. Lily was thriving too. She excelled in school, discovered a passion for art, and blossomed into a confident, independent young woman. She often came over to my apartment for dinner, and we'd spend hours talking, laughing, and supporting each other. Our bond, forged in the crucible of hardship, had become unbreakable. Dad and Claire continued to be a constant source of love and support. They celebrated every milestone, offered advice when needed, and provided a safety net that allowed me to take risks and pursue my ambitions without fear of falling. They had become the family I always longed for, a family built on trust, respect, and unconditional love. Despite the newfound stability, a part of me still felt restless, yearning for something more. The courier job paid the bills, but it didn't ignite my passion. I craved a creative outlet, a way to express myself, to make a difference in the world. One evening, while browsing through a local bookstore, I stumbled upon a collection of essays by emerging writers. The raw honesty and vulnerability in their words resonated deeply within me, stirring a long, dormant desire to write. I bought the book and devoured it in one sitting, feeling a spark of inspiration ignite within me. That night, I sat down at my computer and began to write. I wrote about my childhood, about Mom's addiction, about the struggles and triumphs that had shaped me into the person I am today. The words poured out of me, a torrent of emotions finding their way onto the page. I wrote late into the night, losing myself in the act of creation. When I finally stopped, hours later, I felt exhausted but exhilarated, as if I had finally found my voice. Writing became my escape, my therapy, my passion. I started attending writing workshops, honing my skills, and connecting with other aspiring writers. I found a supportive community, a tribe of kindred spirits who understood my struggles and encouraged me to pursue my dreams. With each story I wrote, I felt a little bit stronger, a little bit more confident, a little bit more whole. Writing was helping me heal, to make sense of my past, and to create a future filled with hope and purpose. One rainy afternoon, while waiting for a delivery at a local coffee shop, I noticed a familiar face. A woman sat alone at a table, her head bowed, her shoulders slumped. It took me a moment to recognize her, but then it hit me like a punch to the gut. It was Janet, Mom's enlightened friend, the woman who had introduced her to the seminar that had set our lives on a path of destruction. My first instinct was to turn and walk away, to avoid the confrontation, to erase her from my memory, but something held me back. A sense of curiosity, perhaps, or a desire for closure. I took a deep breath and approached her table. "Janet?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The woman looked up, her eyes widening in recognition. "Ella? Is that you?" Her face was gaunt, her eyes sunken, her hair disheveled. She looked like a ghost of her former self. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice cold. I could ask you the same question," she stammered, avoiding my gaze. "I work here," I said, gesturing to my courier uniform. "What about you? Last I heard, you were living the high life, making millions in real estate." Janet laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "That was a long time ago. It all fell apart, Ella. The investments, the friends, the money, it all disappeared." "What happened?" I asked, despite myself. "The same thing that happened to your mother," she said, her voice barely audible. "I got addicted. I lost everything." A wave of anger washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a strange sense of pity. This woman, who had once seemed so powerful and confident, was now just a broken shell of a person. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, my voice softening slightly. "Don't be," she said, her eyes meeting mine for the first time. "I deserve it. I ruined your family, didn't I?" "You played a role," I said, "but Mom made her own choices." "I know," she said, "but I planted the seed. I filled her head with lies and false promises. I thought I was helping her, but I was only hurting her. And you, it's in the past," I said, trying to dismiss the pain that still lingered. "No, it's not," she said. "It's still happening. Your mother, She's still out there, still chasing her dreams. I saw her a few weeks ago at a casino downtown. She looked terrible, Ella. She's going to kill herself if she doesn't get help. Her words hit me hard, stirring up a mix of emotions. I thought I had buried guilt, anger, sadness, and a lingering sense of responsibility. I can't help her, Janet, I said, my voice trembling. I've tried. She won't listen. Maybe not, she said, but you're the only one who can reach her. You're her daughter. She loves you, Ella, even if she doesn't show it. She rummaged through her purse and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. Here, she said, handing it to me. This is where she's staying. It's a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. Go see her, Ella. Please. For her sake and for yours. I took the piece of paper, my hand shaking. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run, to forget about Mom, to protect myself from further pain. But I also knew that I couldn't ignore Janet's words. Mom was out there, spiraling out of control, and I was the only one who could potentially save her. The motel was a depressing place, a forgotten corner of the city, populated by drifters and broken dreams. The air was thick with the smell of stale cigarette smoke and desperation. I found Mom's room, a small, cramped space with peeling paint and a flickering light bulb. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding in my chest. A moment later, the door creaked open. Mom stood before me, her face haggard, her eyes bloodshot, her hair a tangled mess. She looked like a stranger, a ghost of the woman I once knew. Ella? She said, her voice hoarse. What are you doing here? I came to see you, I said, my voice trembling. She stepped aside, allowing me to enter the room. The interior was even more depressing than I imagined. Clothes were strewn across the floor. Empty liquor bottles littered the nightstand, and the air was heavy with the stench of decay. What do you want? She asked, her voice defensive. I want to help you, Mom, I said, my voice pleading. Janet told me what's been happening. You need help. I don't need your help, she snapped, her eyes flashing with anger. I'm fine. I'm just going through a rough patch. You're not fine, Mom, I said. You're destroying yourself. You've lost everything. The house, your family, your dignity. I can get it all back, she said, her voice filled with a desperate hope. I just need one more chance, one more win. There's no winning, Mom, I said, my voice firm. It's a lie. It's an addiction. You need to admit that you have a problem and get help. She scoffed, turning away from me. You don't understand. You've never understood. You think you're so much better than me, so perfect. But you're just as flawed as I am. I'm not perfect, Mom, I said, my voice cracking with emotion. I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. I've grown. You haven't. You're still stuck in the same destructive cycle. Get out, she said, her voice cold. I don't want to see you. I don't need your judgment. I'm not judging you, Mom, I said. I'm trying to save you. I'm your daughter. I love you. Love? She scoffed. You don't know what love is. You abandoned me. You left me to rot. I didn't abandon you, Mom, I said, my voice rising. You pushed me away. You chose your addiction over your family. You chose money over love. That's not true, she said, her voice trembling. I did it for you. I wanted to give you a better life. You didn't do it for me, Mom, I said, tears streaming down my face. You did it for yourself. You wanted to be rich, to be powerful, to be admired. You didn't care about me or Lily or Dad. You only cared about yourself. She stared at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger, shame, and regret. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a glimmer of hope, but then the light faded and her face hardened once again. Get out, she repeated, her voice a low growl. I don't want you here. I knew then that I couldn't reach her. She was too far gone, lost in her own self-destructive world. I had tried, but it wasn't enough. With a heavy heart, I turned and walked out of the motel room. leaving her alone in her despair. As I stepped out into the rain-soaked street, I felt a sense of profound sadness, a deep ache in my soul. I had lost my mother long ago, and now I had to accept that she was never coming back. The next few weeks were difficult. I struggled with guilt and regret, wondering if I could have done more to help Mom. I replayed our conversation in my head, searching for clues, for signs of hope. I talked to Dad and Claire, and they offered their support and understanding. They reminded me that I had done everything I could, that I couldn't force someone to change if they didn't want to. Lily was also a source of strength. She listened patiently to my anxieties and offered words of comfort and encouragement. She reminded me of all the good I had done, of all the lives I had touched, and of the importance of focusing on my own well-being. One afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from Mom. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Ella, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to say something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I've done. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused you and Lily and Dad. I know I've been a terrible mother, but I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to be something more, something better. But I got lost along the way. I let my dreams consume me, and I ended up destroying everything I loved. I know you can't forgive me, and I don't expect you to. But I want you to know that I'm trying to change. I've checked myself into a rehab facility. It's not easy, but I'm determined to get better. I want to be the mother you deserve, the mother I should have been all along. I don't know what the future holds, but I hope that one day we can have a relationship again. I hope that one day you can forgive me. I love you, Ella. Mom tears streamed down my face as I read the letter. It was the first time in years that Mom had shown any genuine remorse, any willingness to take responsibility for her actions. A wave of hope washed over me, a flicker of optimism in the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, she could change. Maybe she could find her way back to us. I decided to write her back. Mom, thank you for your letter. It means a lot to me. I'm glad to hear that you're getting help. It's not going to be easy, but I believe in you. I know you can do it. I forgive you, Mom. I forgave you a long time ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving on, learning from the past, and building a better future. I don't know what our relationship will be like in the future, but I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm willing to try. But you have to be willing to change, to be honest, to be accountable. I love you too, Mom. Ella, I mailed the letter and waited. I didn't know if she would respond, if she would continue with her treatment, if she would ever be the mother I longed for. But I had done what I could. I had extended a hand, offered forgiveness, and expressed my love. The rest was up to her. Months turned into a year. I received occasional updates from the rehab facility, informing me of Mom's progress. She was attending therapy, participating in group sessions, and working hard to overcome her addiction. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, relapses, and moments of doubt, but she persevered, driven by a newfound determination to reclaim her life and to rebuild her relationships with her family. During that time, I focused on my own healing and growth. I continued to write, exploring my past, processing my emotions, and finding my voice. I submitted my work to literary magazines, and to my surprise, I started to get published. My stories resonated with readers, touched by my honesty, vulnerability, and resilience. I found a sense of purpose in sharing my experiences, in connecting with others who had faced similar challenges. I also started volunteering at a local homeless shelter, helping people struggling with addiction and mental health issues. I wanted to give back to the community, to use my experiences to make a difference in the lives of others. One day, I received a call from the rehab facility. Mom had completed her treatment and was ready to return home. She wanted to see me. My heart pounded in my chest. I was nervous, excited, and apprehensive. I didn't know what to expect. I drove to the facility, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. When I saw Mom standing outside, waiting for me, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. She looked different. Her face was thinner, but her eyes were clearer. She stood tall, her shoulders squared, her gaze steady. We hugged, a long, tight embrace. "It's good to see you, Ella," she said, her voice trembling. "It's good to see you too, Mom," I said, my voice cracking with emotion. We spent the afternoon together, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. She told me about her experiences in rehab, about the challenges she had faced, and about the lessons she had learned. She was honest, vulnerable, and accountable. She took responsibility for her actions and expressed remorse for the pain she had caused. I listened patiently, offering support and encouragement. I could see that she had changed, that she was truly committed to her recovery. The following years were a journey of healing and reconciliation. Mom moved into a small apartment near mine and started attending support groups. She also found a job at a local library, returning to her passion for books and learning. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of tension, of doubt, and of fear. But we worked through them, communicating openly, setting boundaries, and respecting each other's needs. Slowly but surely, our relationship began to heal. We started spending time together, going to movies, having dinner, and taking walks. We talked about everything, sharing our hopes, our dreams, and our fears. Lily also played a crucial role in our reconciliation. She welcomed Mom back into her life with open arms, offering forgiveness and understanding. She reminded me of the importance of family, of love, and of hope. Dad and Claire were also supportive, offering encouragement and guidance. They had always wanted the best for me and Mom, and they were thrilled to see us rebuilding our relationship. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, laughing and sharing stories, I realized how far we had come. We had faced unimaginable challenges, overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and emerged stronger, more resilient, and more loving. We had built a new family, a family forged in the crucible of hardship, a family based on trust, respect, and unconditional love. I looked at Mom, her face radiant with happiness. She had made mistakes. She had hurt us deeply, but she had also found redemption. She had faced her demons, conquered her addiction, and transformed her life. I smiled, feeling a sense of profound gratitude wash over me. I had forgiven her, not just for her sake, but for my own. I had learned to let go of the past, to embrace the present, and to look forward to the future. We had all found our way back to each other, and that was all that mattered. Years later, I sat at my desk writing. My first novel, inspired by my life, had just been published. I held it in my hands, feeling a sense of accomplishment and pride. Mom walked into the room, her face beaming. "It's beautiful, Ella," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm so proud of you," I smiled, handing her the book. "It's all thanks to you, Mom," I said. "You inspired me to tell my story." She hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so lucky to have you as my daughter," she said. "I love you more than words can say." I hugged her back, feeling a sense of profound peace wash over me. We had come full circle. We had healed our wounds, rebuilt our relationship, and found our way back to love. The storm had passed, and we had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more loving than ever before. We had finally found our happy ending.